Hello there, and welcome to World of Tanks with Centennial Chieftain. Well, over the last week there's been quite a few changes made by Wargaming to the console version of World of Tanks. Update 3.3 has been released, and it has brought on some new maps, changes to British Tech 3, set up a mini game mode at Tipperville Ridge with a new map and a game mode playing with the Mark I tank to commemorate the 100 years since tanks were first used in World War I as part of the Somme offensive. Pacific Island has gotten a typhoon weather variation, which is similar but not quite the same as the sandstorm on Steps and the blizzard on the Erlenberg. I think in the few times that I've played Pacific Island, that I don't think it's affected the gameplay as much, and the visibility effects are not quite as severe. The big changes to the British Tech 3 is the introduction of the Chieftain M6 Tier 10 as another heavy tank, following on from the Conqueror, along with the FE215B. They've also replaced the FE4202, which I quite liked and had some very good games in, with the Centurion Action 10. You're looking here at my first attempt, or edited highlights of my first attempt with the Centurion Action 10. And frankly, this is the best game I've had in it. Now, I've had problems with my game recently, becoming very inconsistent and having long periods of very poor play and very poor decision making on my part. Not exactly sure what exactly is the cause of this problem. I suppose I've been under a lot of pressure in real life. Certain things haven't been working out the way I would have liked. However, the Centurion Action 10 has been one disaster after another. I've had about 6 games in it, and I have suffered ignominy and defeat at every turn. I want my Tier 10 FE4202 back. On the other hand, I can't really complain about the performance of the Tier 8 version.
It's up to us. There's no one left.
I've had some monster games in it. In my second game, which I put up yesterday, I'll have a link in the video description, and this is an excerpt from it. I finished up as 1 versus 3 against 2 Tier 10 and 1 Tier 9 tank. And I managed to pull it off, as you can see here by my kill shots. So, and every game I've had since in the Tier 8 FE4202, 4202P really, I suppose, has been actually quite a good game. Not all of them, or actually none of them have been as good as this one, but I've had pretty decent games in it. Now, it is very slow, and it is pretty sluggish in terms of acceleration. But the armour is okay. I mean, it's not a motherland, but it's pretty okay. And the gun is, you know, the ever reliable British 20-pounder anti-tank gun. By God, the bore on that T110E3 is monstrous when you're looking straight down it. So yeah, the FE4202P is a tank that I really cannot complain about. Like I said, I've been doing quite well in it. So finally we get around to the major reason for creating this video, which is to describe my experience in the first phase of the Centennial operation. Wargaming have released yet another hero tank, a Centennial T95, which is going to be another British medium tank, and part of it is the Mark I game mode, where you're playing the Mark I in a trench warfare environment. So they've changed the format again. It's not exactly the same as the Hammer, but it isn't the same as the original AMX CDC and the Motherland. This particular variation, you gain a point for killing a tank in a winning match. and it doesn't matter what match you do it in. And that includes the World War I game mode. You can also, in the World War I game mode, or if you had purchased the premium tank, you can gain a boost. 100 Years of Glory, I think they're called. And these boosts give you basically free kills. If you have the boosts available and you have them selected in your ops, if you get the top 3 by damage, the boost activates, and it gives you from 1 to 20 points. Now, I decided initially I was going to grind about 24 of these, and it was a bit of a grind. It took me 50 games. The trouble with the Mark I game mode is that it's fun the first couple of times you play it, but after that it gets old fairly fast. Part of the problem is that all the tanks are identical and there's only 7 aside. It's quite a small battlefield, so it suffers extremely heavily from the kind of cascade effect that occurs in games like World of Tanks, where you start going down a tank. Games like World of Tanks are very vulnerable when you start losing tanks, because you basically get a kind of a cascade effect. The enemy has extra tanks. If they're able to bring these extra tanks to bear, they have effectively more firepower brought to bear than you have, and you then start losing tanks faster. And the more you lose, the faster you lose them. Now, in the regular 15v15 World of Tanks, sometimes you can have positional advantages, or somebody is a particularly strong player in a particularly strong tank and they're able to actually claw back the deficit. So you can go 2 to 3 tanks down and still clutch a victory, or even, you know, people pulling off Columbanos medals 1 to 4. I've seen, you know, videos of people doing it with extraordinary numbers, like, you know, 1 to 7, 1 to 8 kind of thing. But in the Mark I game mode, it's fairly random as to who wins. Although it's relatively easy to kill a tank, especially with the flamethrowers. But getting yourself on the top 3 damage is a bit random for the average player at any rate. I'm sure the really good players have no problem with it. The other thing I thought is they could have invested a few more bob in the game mode. Vehicles and artillery are, well, the anti-aircraft guns that have lying around are definitely World War II, and they're also using World War II aircraft. You know, sticking a few biplane models and stuff like that wouldn't have been too much to ask, I thought. Finally, we get to the completion of the Centennial 95 Op Part 1, where you had to complete 100 points. Each point was obtained by either killing a tank. Multiple kills didn't give you extra points, just 1 kill in a winning match, or any number of kills in a winning match basically, give you 1 point. The winning match had to be in, like I said already, the random battles from tier 3 to 10, or they could be in the trench warfare mode, playing the Mark I. Basically took me 68 games to complete it. I had 24 boosts when I started, and I finished up with 11 boosts. On average, I'd say I was only getting about 3 points per boost. I never got higher than 8 as far as I can make out on a boost. So, still, 11 boosts, that probably saved me somewhere in the order of 30 to 40 odd points. I didn't keep exact track of it in exact numbers, so I'm just kind of guesstimating. When I reached 97 points, I switched off the boosts and I said I'd save the remainder for part 2. The one thing is that it doesn't get more difficult. Each phase of the operation will require 100 points. So once you've done part 1, you should have a rough idea of how long it will take you and how much effort it will take you to do the other 2 parts. Unlike, say, the AMX and the Motherland, where you had to accumulate more and more XP to complete part of the op, and it turned into a real slog. Now, I still found this version of it a bit grindy, and I found it, I suppose, less of an ego boost than the hammer operation. The hammer operation required you really rewarded good players, more so than the average player or bad players, because you lost points for doing poorly on losing teams. Now, the upside of it was that if you were a good player, you could actually accumulate the points fairly handily and fairly quickly. I think the real downside of it was that as people were getting more and more desperate for succeeding in the hammer op, they were utilising their strongest premium tanks, stuff like Churchill 3 and things like that, premium matchmaking, and they were loading it up with their best crews, and they were using premium rounds exclusively. Pretty much what I did. And it was frustrating, but I didn't really object to it. I understood the logic behind it, and I thought it was a reasonable way of doing it. I think this is a little more grindy. It feels a bit more like a grind, but you also know that it isn't going to get any worse for the next time around. So the final battle was done on my trusty KV-5. For the last 5 or 6 battles I basically went with heavy tanks. And we're here in Live Oak, and I just basically drove around as fast as I could, killed as much as I could get my hands on, relying on the sturdiness and the armour of the KV-5 to get me through. I need to get up as close as possible to that T-34 so that he can't shoot my weak spots, and I've dinged a few rounds of his upper protector, which is rather foolish of me. Try and snipe the cupola here, and I completely fluff it. But he's got very little health left, so I load high explosives, and when you have high explosives loaded, I really don't care where I shoot him. Anywhere in the turret cheek will do, because any bit of splash damage will succeed. So that's my thoughts on the first part of the Centennial operation. I've managed to get my 100 points. I had some fairly good games, and I hope to show videos of them over the course of this week. So thank you for watching. I'll be back again soon with more videos. And please consider subscribing to the channel. Goodbye.